Your Words Destroyed My Planet, the stream series. The edited version. Originally streamed live at twitch.tv/dualitiesdownfall. More information in the description. Because this is Your Words Destroyed My Planet, Chapter 19. You stand before the glass-fronted display as you stare at the ice cream flavors beneath it. Lemon sherbet shines bright under the display lighting, a little sachet of Pop Rocks poking out of it for display, but the label says it comes with that. Next to that, there's candy apple with dark cherry ripple. That particular sauce is so rich and dark it's almost black in the red ice cream around it. Above that, there's lime sorbet. To the right is a bright blue raspberry, a dark blue ice cream that has a blue oozing candy stuck in it. There's so many more flavors, hundreds even. That one and that one, please, the man ahead of you in line says, tapping on the glass. Honey bourbon and kiwi punch? The seller asks. Please, both in the same bowl if you can. I don't mind them mixing or anything, the man says cheerily. He's served and steps aside, and now it's your turn. Now you have to... I have you down as grape soda ice cream float. Here you go, the seller says, pushing a tall glass over to you without you even saying anything. What? You say, stunned. You pick up the glass out of sheer customer awkwardness and move out of the line. Come sit with me, the man ahead of you says, and leads you to a table. You don't get to look at him as you walk to your table, since you're so focused on not upsetting the glass and spilling anything, since right now it feels like surface tension is the only thing stopping this dessert from overflowing. When you finally get to the table and manage to set it down, you breathe a sigh of relief and sit. Is that not what you wanted? The man asks. You look up from your glass to him, and you're taken aback to see near enough your own face looking back at you. It's Signless. What? You ask dumbly, still too shocked to see him. Your dessert. You didn't order it. That's just what you have. I was asking if you liked it or not, Signless says, gesturing to your grape soda float with his spoon that's got a swirled up scoop of his two flavors. Carefully, you lean over and sip at the straw, feeling a little relief when the soda level goes down enough that you're not in danger of spilling the thing. Cool grape ice cream and grape soda hit your palate, and the temperature change is soothing to your throat. No, I like it, you tell him. As long as you're happy, Signless says softly, and runs his spoon through his ice creams in an aimless kind of pattern. What about you? You ask conversationally. Oh, this is perfect. You wouldn't think they go, but they do. Signless beams. There's a spoon by your ice cream float, so you pick it up and take a careful spoonful, even as it's dissolving in the soda it's floating in. It's sweet, maybe with a slightly artificial tang that reminds you of something you've had before. Certainly not unpleasant, and like you said already, it's soothing. Idly, you glance back at the display case and the customers in line. People with cones that have all sorts of neatly divided segments, and you watch as they get a perfect scoop in each little bit. Your eyes go from there back to the first flavor you saw, the lemon sherbet. A strangeness comes over you, and you realize at once that you've no idea where you are, and that Signless is dead. You look at him, and the scenery around you warps and melts a little as he takes on a look of alarm. I'm dreaming, you say. You stir into wakefulness, annoyed at your dream. You moving makes Gamzee roll over in his sleep, and without even really being awake, he kind of nuzzles his face into yours, his nose brushing your cheek enough to relax you back into sleep. Carcat, wait! Signless's voice fills your ears, and the ice cream place reforms around you both. His hand is on your wrist, holding you tight, but you're immediately aware that this is still a dream. This is a fucked up metaphor, you accuse him. It's your subconscious, Signless points out, which makes it your fault, of course. Seriously, though, people as ice cream flavors, that's literally objectifying everyone, you snap. It's not a perfect metaphor, but I was trying to get a point across, and dream logic is a little sketchy, Signless sighs. Why are you talking like you're a person? You're not real either. You're dead. You're just a figment of my imagination, and dream thoughts same as this whole stupid place, you say, waving your hand at the ice cream place at large. If that is true, do you really think that yelling at yourself is going to be helpful at all? Would it not be wiser to listen to whatever I have to say so that you can sort your own thoughts out? He asks curiously. Like some kind of Socratic fucking dialogue? You sneer at him. What? He asks with a confused little frown. An old dead human philosopher who made up characters to argue with each other to reveal a point. I know this. Why don't you know this? You ask him. Well, I'm a dead troll. I never met a human. I've seen them in little flashes since, but I don't really know anything about them, Signless says. Right, because he's your idea of Signless, so he doesn't know things that Signless wouldn't know. There's a sort of dream logic to that. Well, either way, I'm not super interested in hearing what my own mind has to say, since everything I say, think, and do is garbage, and everyone would be better off if I stopped doing all of those, or even existing at all, you say bitterly. Do you really think that? Signless asks softly. Yes? No. Kind of. It feels that way, you mutter. I'm really sorry. That sounds awful. You deserve to be happy, and I'm willing to listen if you want to talk. Signless tells you, ever so gently, reaching across the table to place his hand on yours. It feels like he should be bigger than you, like you're a little kid and he's the adult that Disciple always told you stories of. But he wasn't all that much older than you are now when he died. Even in my dreams, you're a better person than I am, you whisper, and the words are like a knife through your own blood pusher. What do you mean? Signless asks in surprise, like he doesn't know because he's your own thoughts. You're this great hero. You fought for people. You were selfless and did the right thing every time. You saved people, even when it cost you your own life, but I make sure people get the right amount of leave and try not to fuck up my friends' lives, and I'm not even good at that, you say, full of loathing for yourself. First of all, I apparently got a pretty good PR person after I died, because that's a wildly charitable account of my life. I definitely was not always selfless, and certainly not always right, so you can drop that right away. Second of all, I did everything I did so that if my mom ever managed to sneak into the caverns and make it so my genes got passed on at all, that you, my descendant, would have a better life. If your biggest problem is you not thinking your job is important and having interpersonal problems be the heaviest thing on your mind, then I consider that a win. I suffered so you didn't have to, Signless insists. Yeah, and it's not like things are perfect now. I could be making things better. I should be campaigning to fix things, to improve on what you did. I could do something. I should be making things more equal or breaking down whatever weird group is behind all these mysteries lately, but I'm just a useless sack of shit and I don't do any of that, you argue. Oh, come the fuck on. You're not obligated to martyr yourself just because I died for my cause. I'd have preferred not dying for my cause at all. I'd have preferred to change things and then live my life doing things that made me happy. All I want for you is to be happy. Signless argues back, actually cursing at you and giving you an angry look that you're more used to making with your own face instead of seeing. Newsflash, asshole! I've not been happy in years! You shout at him. You jerk awake as your alarm goes off and find that you're alone in bed. You grab your alarm clock and hurl it at the wall, breaking it with a crunch. Fuck this day and fuck your subconscious for putting you through that. Who knows where Gamzee is or why he's there, but honestly, it's probably good that he's not near you right now. You're probably god-awful company. You get ready for work and travel there with your headphones on and an expression on your face that you hope dissuades anyone from talking to you, looking at you, or in any way confirming that you exist at all. You do not take your headphones off when you get into your work. You go straight to your office and shut the door. You flick the light on only for it to immediately blow. Of course, of fucking course. Thank you, universe, for the sign that my day, nay, my life is going to continue to be fucking awful. Anything else you care to tell me? You demand of the dark and empty room in general. Without warning, the light starts glowing again, only to threateningly rattle in the fixture, making you scramble to hit the off switch. Okay, point taken. No tempting the universe. You leave the light switch and head to your desk, falling wearily into your chair. You turn your computer on and pull up the phone number for maintenance. You dial the number and a stressed-out sounding woman answers. "Maintenance, what is it?" she asks, kind of rudely. It's Carcat Vantis in HR. The light in my office just blew and then started making a pretty alarming noise, so I turned the switch off. You explain. "Right, I'll add it to the list," she sighs. "Right, so is someone gonna come out and fix it for me? I'd do it myself, but your department always..." You try. "You're not authorized to perform maintenance tasks. We'll get to you when we get to you. We're getting a lot of this right now." The woman interrupts you to say, "Do you have a time estimate on that? Because I'm just sat in the dark here." You point out. "You're a troll, you've got night vision, and your computer screen lights up. Work from somewhere else if you can't stand it, but I've got a long list and it just keeps getting longer, so, like I said, we'll get to you when we get to you," the woman says tersely. You feel the need to argue that your species shouldn't place you higher or lower than anyone else on the urgency list, and you sincerely hope that she's not organizing it that way. However, you have other questions you want to ask. "How many lights are you having a problem with? What's going on?" You ask her. "If I knew that, I wouldn't have this problem, would I?" The woman shoots back. "Well, you could know the answer and not be able to fix it, so it's not like that entirely follows," you point out. "Thanks for the vote of confidence," the woman says sharply, and you hear the call disconnect. "Cool, well, at least someone else is having a shitty day, too. Maybe you can get answers elsewhere." "Hal, sorry to bother you, but are you working at the moment? I know things are rough because of the launch, so I wasn't sure." "I am. I honestly didn't want to be at home or at my dad's indefinitely. It's not like worrying about my brother and my friend will do jack shit to ensure they don't die horribly. I may as well suffer on the clock." "I can understand that." "What did you want? I'm assuming this isn't a social call. You're not Rose, and we're not exactly close enough for you to be checking on my feelings. Most of our interactions are either about Dave or Solix." Reading that back, that came off a little more aggressive than I intended, but still, what do you want? "No, that's fair. I did want to know how you're doing, because this whole situation is a shit show, but I also had a question that is sort of gossip-based." Fuck, I love gossip. "I know. So, my light in my office just blew, and that keeps happening. I called maintenance about it, and they got really shitty about it, saying they had so many things to fix suddenly, so they get to me when they get to me. Do you know why that would keep happening, and why it's apparently a widespread problem?" "It keeps happening." "Can we go 1 week without someone referencing Dave's shitty webcomic?" "Absolutely not." "Fantastic." "That said, I would attribute a power surge to be due to the reactor on the ship, but it's a pretty stable power source, and it's incredibly tightly monitored because it's the thing keeping us all alive and all. My guess would be that there's something messing with the way the power is being distributed or the wiring itself. But unless we have some pest problem that I didn't know about, then I can't really see how that happened." "No clue at all?" "Not really. I haven't got any tickets for big systems suddenly offline or malfunctioning that explain a big change in our power needs that might cause things to overload and blow. That's really weird." "I guess these things just happen from time to time, then?" "Either that or someone fucked up on a batch of bulbs. Actually, that's way more likely. I don't know why I didn't think of that." "Ah, and maybe if it was someone in that department that approved them, they'd be in trouble, hence the shitty attitude." "Sounds like we solved the mystery." "That's something. How are you, though?" "Suboptimal. It sucks because all of my family are going through the same thing, and normally if there was a problem with Dave's mission, which there has been before, I'd talk to Solix about it. But that's not really helpful now." "He's a surprisingly good listener, isn't he?" "Yeah. Look, this conversation's become a little morbid, so I'm gonna check out." "That's totally understandable. If you need anything, let me know, yeah? I know we're not exactly super close, like you said, but I'm serious. If you need help, even if it's HR help with your work about this whole thing, then just let me know." "Sure. If I ever need someone to yell at my boss, I'll hit you up." "Good. Okay. See you around." Well, you guess you're sat in the dark for the time being. You get on with your work quietly, honestly preferring the distraction of other people's problems to your own, which was exactly the kind of thing you'd been trying to not think about. Maintenance doesn't get to you by lunchtime, so you stick your head in your boss's office and tell her you're going to work from your hive instead. She lets you go because it's a perfectly reasonable accommodation, and it's not like you're going to go home and mess around instead of working. When you get home, Gamzee is still out wherever he is, so you shoot him a message letting him know that you're working from home. You don't manage to be all that productive, but that's mostly due to being stuck waiting on people getting back to you on things, so you end up advancing a lot of tasks a little bit, but not actually being able to cross a damn thing off of your to-do list. It's really just an exercise in frustration that makes you glad to switch off your tablet and toss it on the coffee table at the end of the day. You drape one arm over your face as you lay down on the lounge plank. You really should sort out your feelings, but you're so exhausted that at the same time, you know that if you don't sort out your feelings and think about your life, then you're not going to get better, and you'll just be a shittier, older version of yourself, whipping your past self for not improving. But you're so tired. Your arm slips from your eyes, and you blink sleepily, your eyes drifting shut for just a moment.
I had an idea,
a voice says softly. You breathe in sleepily and open your eyes to see Silas sitting on your coffee table, his arms resting on his black and red suit-covered knees.
You again?
You groan.
Don't try to wake up, please. This could be helpful. Look.
Silas urges you. You open your eyes again and sit up only to come face to face with a younger, round-cheeked version of yourself, maybe at about 6 years old.
You seem to be having a hard time articulating why things felt as bad as they do for you. I thought maybe telling your younger self what your life is like now might be helpful,
Silas explains.
Why would I do that? I know I'm dreaming. I know this isn't real, and you're dead, you point out.
Why not? It could help, and if you're asleep, what else do you have to be doing right now? Silas points out. You could be having nightmares about what that crash must have been like for your friends. You could be imagining the horror of what's going to happen with Jade and Dave. Oh, you could be dreaming about Solix in a way that you'll definitely feel guilty about when you wake up. Oh, or Dave, since you never got over your thing for him either. That'd be great, because if you dream about Dave, you can feel guilty for having feelings for someone who you're not dating, who is dating your friend, who your other friend has a thing for. You can feel shitty on so many levels. A tiny voice in the back of your mind suggests that if you're going to think about Solix or Dave in ways that'll make you feel guilty in the morning, then you could at least multitask and imagine the two of them in the same dream that you can feel guilty about.
I'm suddenly entirely on board with doing whatever this is instead,
you say quickly and sit up. What was that? Silas asks curiously.
What was what? Can you read my thoughts?
You ask as paranoia creeps up your neck hotly. Of course he can, because he's just a figment of your imagination.
Not really, only if you, I guess, think really loudly would be the best way to put it. I try not to, but
Silas's eyes go a little wider. You know, right around the time your think sponge plays out the image of Solix kissing Dave in high definition. We could talk about that! Silas grins, and with a wave of his arm, the image of your younger self vanishes.
Oh my god, no! Holy fuck, I do not want to talk about that! I shouldn't even be thinking anything like that!
You insist, clapping your hands over your face. Hey, it looked great to me.
Size Descendant got his looks, I see, and that alien is interesting. What are they like?
Silas asks curiously.
No, it was just a dumb thought, and I shouldn't even be thinking that. Also, Dave's way more than just an alien, thanks. Besides, humans aren't really all that different. They don't do quadrants all that well as a rule, which is pretty... You struggle to find the word.
Relatable? Silas suggests.
Yeah, but still, I'm spoken for. I've got a Moirel, and I'm not supposed to be with anyone else, because that's the deal. I can't just be thinking about my best friend and my other friend like that. Like, yes, Solix likes Dave, but Dave is dating Jade, or last I checked he is. I'm pretty sure I'm responsible for their imminent breakup there, you say bitterly. Okay. I'm going to leave whether you're responsible for that or not to the side, because I did overhear some of you and that other human talking about that. I did catch her name, but it's harder for me to think when you're not dreaming me. Frankly, I'm appreciating the coherence while I have it. I want to talk about your feelings. The romantic ones, I mean. Silas says. Her name is Rose, you mutter. Rose, right, and she's this Dave's hatchmate? Silas checks. Twin, but basically similar. Way more close, though. You explain. Got it. So, leaving that stuff aside, can we talk about romance? You have some pretty obvious feelings for Sai's descendant. Solux, that was it. And this Dave, too? What kind of feelings? He asks. You slump lower in your seat and stare petulantly at your knees. Solux is my best friend. He always has been. Figuring out my feelings in quadrants was really hard when I was younger. You start. I remember that feeling. Sorry for putting you through that. Silas apologizes. You didn't do anything wrong. I should have figured it out sooner since I knew about you from Disciple, but still, it took so long, and I didn't know what I needed. I knew he felt things for me, and I did too, but I couldn't. It was too hard, and so I encouraged him to be with Aradia, so he did, and he was happy for almost 10 years, you say softly. Were you? Silas asks. I worked out that I needed to be the only person someone was with, and I couldn't ask that, but Gamzee agreed, and he's sweet. He is. It just didn't stop me wanting other people because I'm stupid and selfish and the fucking worst. You hiss. I can relate, Silas says quietly. You had everything worked out. You had this flawless relationship with Psionic and Disciple, and you were all peace and love about everything. You're perfect, and I'm a fucking mess. You argue. Ha! Silas laughs loudly without amusement. What? You say, dumbstruck. You've got to stop listening to other people talking about me. If you're a selfish mess, then it's because I am. Look, I did pity and hate them both equally and without quadrant, and it was great. I could deal with the two of them being together because they were both mine, but the idea of either of them being with someone else, of seeing them with another person and being on the outside looking in, I couldn't do it. I never could. It didn't even matter if it was concupiscent or not. One time, Disciple was getting close to someone else paleways, and I couldn't deal with it at all. Honestly, I could have sent the Empress a thank you letter when she bombed our camp and it forced our group to split to avoid it. We got separated from them and everything went back to normal. That's awful of me, Silas says, his voice agonized. But the three of you were together, all blurred together. You repeat dumbly. Yeah, we were. And I had feelings for other people. I got crushes, and I knew I couldn't do anything about it. It's normal, but Sai got a crush on some helmsman once, and I was glad when she died, and I've never forgiven myself for it. I wanted it to be just us, and it was supposed to be that way, but Silas shudders and looks away from you, like he can't stand for you to see him. But didn't you tell them how you felt? You ask him quietly. Yes, I explained how my feelings worked, that it was without quadrant, and I wanted them together as much as I wanted each of them. I said how much I loved that it was just the three of us like this, and how we were perfect together, but, Silas stammers out, his sentences cut awkwardly as he forces the unwilling words out. Did you not tell them that you didn't want them dating other people? You ask him in wide-eyed shock. I couldn't. There's nothing wrong with their feelings, and wanting to keep them to myself was selfish, and I already had what I wanted with the three of us together, so I just hoped that I'd be enough and that it'd never come up. Only it did. Even now, Disciple is with someone else, and of course she is. I've been dead for so long, and so has Sai, I think, and of course she moved on, but I can't even look at her with her matesprit. She moved on, and I'm still here, and if I wasn't already dead, I'd wish that I was.
Silas chokes out. You reach for him, and he jerks back. Just like that, you're awake again. You sit up, your neck stiff from the angle you'd slept on the lounge plank. That's the second dream of Silas you've had in as many days. Less if you're counting it as a rolling day. Between last night and now is 2. Despite knowing it's a dream, you feel unease settling over you, and more dangerous still, you find yourself curious. You pick up your palm husk.
Hey, you still haven't responded. Are we doing dinner together or what? I'm only asking because I think I might go see Disciple if that's okay with you.
Hello?
Gamzee, it's been hours since I first sent you a message saying I got back, and you haven't messaged me anything, and now you're not saying anything here?
You tab out of that conversation and into a new one with Disciple.
Hey, Dis, can I see you? I think I might still be banned from your area, but could I buy you dinner?
Sure. Is something wrong, though?
Not wrong, as such. I just had some questions about Silas, is all. If you don't mind answering them, that is.
Is it to do with our last chat, or Nepeta?
Right, of course you know about that. I know you don't like it when we fight, and I talked to her myself, but she's not here right now. Also, maybe talking to you about Silas might help a little. If it's not too much trouble, I mean.
Not at all. What about that nice flavor disc place on level 8B?
Yeah, I could go for pizza. I'll leave now then.
Okay. Well, that's that plan sorted.
Never mind, I'm going out to dinner with Disciple.
You feel pretty shitty to just be ignored by Gamzee. The whole sailor crew who are on the mission are away, so you don't see what he could reasonably be doing that would be so important that he couldn't look at his palm husk once. You're not asking for a novel-length reply here, just any reply at all. You grab a few things and make an attempt at straightening your hair out in the mirror, not that it works, and instead you head out to go see Disciple. There's a fun thing about language when it comes to modern-day Alternian. Well, there's a few things, but one in particular that you're keen on. Even though you and everyone you know speaks Alternian all of the time, it's not the Alternian that Disciple grew up speaking. She called this a flavor disc place, and although you know what that word means, it's not what you'd ever say. You say pizza. Trolls and humans both invented pizza, which isn't that surprising, considering that as a cooking method, it's what if bread, but with stuff on it and cooked, and circles are just good shapes for cooking things like that. So you get the loanword of pizza, which is just easier and shorter to say than flavor disc. There's all kinds of loanwords like that in modern Alternian from a variety of human languages. Either because, like pizza, they express the same idea in a shorter way, or because it's a word for something trolls hadn't thought to name before. You wonder how long it'll take for humans and trolls talking for you to end up speaking something that's nearly indecipherable to trolls you'd have found on Alternia. It's not even one way either. Human languages generally pick up troll words the same way. In your experience, English and Japanese borrow the most words, even if the way they incorporate them with their native pronunciation isn't totally correct to the Alternian ear. With a frown, you try to remember if Silas in your dreams had talked like Disciple, like he hadn't picked up human linguistic terms. He seemed oddly aware and unaware of things happening around you, which is a weird choice for your dreaming mind to take. Either way, talking to him in your dreams really gave you something to think about. Disciple is at the pizza place before you, and she waves you down even though you'd already spotted her from afar. Despite everything, her enthusiasm to see you makes you smile.
Hi, Disciple.
You greet her quietly as she pulls you into a big hug.
I ordered a few of everything,
Disciple explains as she gestures to the slices on plates scattered about the table.
So I see,
you say as you hop up into your seat and look over what she ordered. You each pick a slice and start eating, but it's not long at all before she presses you about why you called her out here.
So, you had some questions about Silas for me?
She asks as she chews on her pizza slice.
Right,
you say with your mouth half full. You chew for a moment and then wash down your over-ambitious mouthful of pizza with a gulp of soda.
I was wondering about him and Romance, I guess. I know he was like me in that quadrants didn't really work, that the thing the two of you had with him was kind of pan-quadrant and blurry. You start. He didn't find it helpful to draw lines like that. Things were all very fluid between one and the other, and it just shifted organically. Disciple agrees. Right. How did that happen, though? You ask. What do you mean? Disciple asks with a small frown. I mean, when you got together with him, how did he explain that? You get how it all works now, and I think trolls now kind of understand that humans don't really get quadrants, so the idea is maybe not so difficult to understand for trolls now, but it must have totally been against everything you knew then. How did he bring that up? You ask. Oh. I suppose that I maybe had an easier start at that. Psionic and I met Silas at about the same kind of time, and I thought that Psi was kind of cute too. You know, in a smart-mouthed, overconfident kind of way that comes off far more charming than it should do. Normally when people talk themselves up, it's insufferable, but with him it's hard to explain. Disciple says wistfully. You think about Solux, about how he's destroyed you at so many things you enjoy. Coding, video games, all kinds of stuff. How Solux will say he's the best, but you know that often he doesn't believe it, and when he does, he actually has the skills to back it up. It's entertaining, frustrating in the best sort of way. Yeah, I know what you mean. You mumble, and drink your soda for an excuse to not say more. Disciple's expression is still knowing, and you try not to meet it. Well, I thought all that about him. Silas was, of course, attractive and magnetic. His sermons were what had driven both of us to follow him in the first place. There was this sense of admiration that everyone had around him, the force of his conviction and how well argued his ideas were. He was great. I had feelings for him before I really knew what they were. I had hoped that I could figure out what I wanted with Psionic before I approached Silas. I had thought that if I could narrow my feelings for Psi down to pitch or flush, then I could pick either pitch or pale for Silas. Disciple explains. I've never understood that. People talk about working out what their feelings for someone are, but then when I say that my feelings don't fit right with people, they're all, oh no, it has to be only this one thing. Vacillating is accepted, but I don't understand people. You say bitterly. Honestly, the only quadrant you've been able to keep in a neat box is pale with Gamzee. Although, sometimes you feel like you're middle-leafing between Gamzee and his past, though you're not so insensitive as to ever say that. Well, the thing is that Silas had been spending a lot of time with us both, individually and together, and it was all very confusing. Psionic actually ended up starting things. He hadn't slept in a while, and that always made him a lot more blunt, shall we say, she says diplomatically. I've been around his descendants enough to know that by blunt you mean kind of an asshole about things, you say flatly. I didn't mean it like that. He wasn't mean or wrong, but he was very forthright. Disciple insists. Yeah, you're sticking with your interpretation, and you'd bet everything you have on you being right, too. So, what did he say? You ask. He essentially asked Silas what he wanted because he had feelings for both of us, and until someone said what they wanted, no one was going to get what they wanted. Disciple says. Yeah, you're right. Tact is nowhere in the captor genes, you're pretty sure. Silas explained about how he saw quadrants and how his own love worked, and about how limiting ourselves seemed wrong, and it wasn't how he worked, that he was happy to be with both of us, but he couldn't close things off as just one quadrant, that his feelings and actions would wander if he was with us, and as much as he wanted to be the normal archetype that we had probably hoped for, he couldn't. He said that he thought me and Psionic would be good for each other, and if we wanted to call it one quadrant, we could, but that'd only work if we wouldn't mind it if Silas was that way too sometimes. We talked about it at length and agreed to try things out, and it actually worked out that me and Psionic worked just as fluidly in affection as Silas did with us. We never would have thought of it ourselves, but Silas was right. Disciple sighs wistfully. That sounds nice for him and all, but you wonder... The problem I have is that I can't be with someone and have them see other people. You tell her. At all? Disciple asks in surprise. You hesitate. You can't stand the idea of Gamzee being off with other people, but you could happily date Gamzee and Solix if it wasn't for the fact that you know Solix would still have feelings for Dave, and also Solix and Gamzee hate each other. I mean, Solix, he's single now, so, in theory, but if he was seeing someone else, it'd break my blood pressure, which is stupid because I still want Gamzee. That's so unfair, and the two of them can't stand each other. You sigh. Well, what if it was more a situation more like me, Signless, and Psionic? Disciple asks. Ha! Solix and Gamzee wouldn't go anywhere near each other's quadrants, even if the fate of the entire universe rested on it. You laugh loudly and without any real mirth. It doesn't have to be them. I'm asking theoretically. If you had feelings for two people, and those people also have feelings for each other. Disciple explains. Your mind goes to Solix, of course. He has feelings for Dave. That's not going away anytime soon, you don't think? Not that you can blame him, because you've had feelings for Dave ever since you first spoke to the insufferable douchebag, who isn't actually insufferable or a douchebag, as much as he puts on the air that he is. That's something. You try to picture this theoretical universe where Dave is actually interested in people of his own gender, and somehow Jade doesn't exist to make this a problem. If you were with Solix, but also with Dave, you have no problem being happy thinking about the two of them together. Fuck, it'd make you happy. You could be with Dave and be happy that Dave was making Solix happy too. Except, Dave made his sexuality very clear when you first met, and when you confessed your feelings for him accidentally. He grew up and unlearned a lot of his taught preconceptions about relationships between people of the same gender. You're pretty sure his family helped him with that. It's not like Dave's homophobic or anything, but you're still pretty sure that he wouldn't be interested in you even if he wasn't with Jade. That is, if he still is, if you haven't ruined everything like you think you have. But this isn't about the practical problems. Disciple is asking you a theoretical question. You can date multiple people, just not if they're dating people you're not also dating. It can't be open, it has to be a closed-off thing, a self-contained ecosystem of romantic feelings. You sigh softly and look up from your plate of cooling pizza to Disciple. I could have feelings for two people who liked each other, too. I wouldn't mind them being with each other as long as they were with me, too, but I couldn't deal with it if they saw people outside of that group or whatever. I can do an A dating B and C dating each other and also A, but if you add in B dating D if A and C aren't as well, then that... No. Sorry, that kind of got algebraic. You apologize. No, I know what you mean. It never really came up with us. Me and Sai had feelings for other people outside of us three, but fate just never turned things out that way. It was just the three of us together. Neither of us saw other people for as long as he lived, but I don't think he would have had a problem with it. He was always about understanding and feelings being good. Disciple smiles warmly. The light of the pizza place's sign plays over her face, but you look around when the light gets brighter and brighter. The sign is glowing eye-searingly bright, shaking with the force of the power going through it. Out of instinct, you grab Disciple and turn her away, just as all of the lights blow. The bulbs in the sign blow, scattering glass over the floor and the customers just below it. The lights in the whole pizza place go off, and you stare in shock as several of the businesses on either side and the hives above are all plunged into darkness. What on Alternia? Disciple gasps as a few lights here and there flicker weakly back to life. Whatever is happening to the lights on the ship is pretty clearly getting worse. Unsurprisingly, the uncertainty about whether there's shards of glass hidden in your food somewhat puts a damper on your meal, and you hug Disciple goodbye and let her go on to her hive. That's
Really interesting, though. Not your personal romantic problems, but the fact that what Signless said in your dream matches up with what Disciple said, or rather what Disciple would say if she hadn't known what you dreamt about. It is just a dream, of course, and you were probably pulling on half-remembered things she'd said before and then projecting your own issues, but it's interesting. You wish you had Psionic around to talk to, but unfortunately he's dead, and you can't talk to the dead. Heh, that's funny, though. That's the kind of thing that Rose would have thought about when you were kids.
Rose, I have a really, really weird request for you, if you're up to doing something dumb.
Well, now I'm far too curious to say no. I wasn't expecting to hear from you for a while, given our last conversation. I was somewhat expecting the standard playbook of pretending that whole conversation never happened.
Hey.
Unless this is a request to talk more about your emotional state and the unreasonable expectations that you place upon yourself.
Absolutely not. I was actually hoping that you'd help me talk to the dead.
There were things I was expecting you to say, and then there was that.
Remember that board you had when we were kids? You brought it to sleepovers a few times?
I do. I think I still have it here somewhere. I don't tend to throw things away, but why do you want to use it?
I don't know. A weird thought, I guess. Never mind, it's dumb.
No, it could be fun. Why don't you come over and talk to me and Hal and also possibly dead people?
Alright, sure. Didn't expect Hal, but okay.
Fantastic. I shall go find an appropriate outfit for a seance.
I'm not going home to change, so I'm wearing what I'm wearing now. I don't care what dead people think of my fashion choices, or living people, for that matter.
But of course. See you soon. You alter your route and make your way over to Rose and Kanaya's place. This is almost certainly a dumb idea, but you'd like to talk to Rose again, and besides, from what you understand about how these things work, it's you that moves the plastic letter thing in the middle so you're writing the message. Honestly, any way to turn your own thoughts over into something productive would be good, and getting to help Rose would be even better. When you get there, you knock on the door, and even though you knew he was there, you're still surprised to see Hal opening what you're used to thinking of as Kanaya's door.
Why are you here anyway? I thought you were working.
You ask him.
See, I exist even when you don't perceive me. My shift finished, so I wanted to see my dearly beloved sister, Hal says teasingly. Frankly, the thought of Strider's existing unobserved is terrifying, so I choose to not think on it too much. You retort. How's your object permanence coming? Maybe when you've grasped that, we can move on to shapes and colors.
Hal snaps back with a grin. Yeah, you get why he and Solix get on well. They're both insufferable pricks. You're a little mad at how endearing you find that. I, for one, object to permanence, Rose declares as she swoops into view in a swishy black gothic dress along with appropriate accessories. Honestly, given how things have been for Rose lately, you're not going to make any remarks about her trying to distract herself with whatever she chooses to wear or do. It's not your job to police her behavior, and you'd rather she was happier than not. Certainly, she's going to feel on edge until Dave comes home, in the same way that you're going to be nervous until you see Solix safe and sound. Demanding that she perform anxiety and grief in a way that's expected is just a shitty thing to do, and you won't be part of it.
Amen. Anyway, Rose said you want to do some kind of seance shit?
Hal says, looking from Rose to you.
It's a dumb thought, but why not?
You shrug. Hal moves out of the doorway and gestures you inside, so the three of you settle in Rose and Kanaya's living area. Rose smooths down the fabric of her skirt and looks at you with an intense interest in every part of her expression. Do tell me what prompted this, Rose commands you gleefully.
It's dumb. I've just been dreaming about my ancestor a lot. Weirdly specific and apparently accurate dreams. Disciple confirmed some details for me, and it's probably either something she told me as a kid that she's forgotten she said and I'd internalized and consciously forgotten, or Maybe just a lucky guess? And the lights keep being weird around me. You start.
You said about that, but we figured bad bulbs or something,
Hal says.
Right. Still, it's pretty stereotypically spooky stuff, so I thought, I don't have anything else to do. I figured it might be entertaining for you, at least. You say, with a look at Rose.
Oh, absolutely. I did also find my old board, by the way. I knew I was right not to throw it out, Rose says, picking it up off the table.
I'm surprised that thing is still in one piece. I remember you getting mad that Dave kept screwing up your games,
Hal says thoughtfully.
Oh, yeah. I remember he'd either refuse to join in saying it was dumb, or he'd... You start.
Repeatedly make the board spell out dicks. Yes, I recall,
Rose says stiffly, and you like to imagine that with the icy look she's giving, that somewhere Dave just got a chill up his spine. Then again, he's on an ice planet. He probably has that already.
But Dave is not here to crowbar phallic vocabulary into this now, so we are entirely able to progress, Rose says, and takes the board and its plastic pointer thing out. Looking down at the board, you can see the standard Latin alphabet used in a good deal of Earth languages, and underneath it, sharpied onto the board in red ink, is the Alternian alphabet. By sheer coincidence, you can basically transcribe the two alphabets on a one-for-one basis with a few discrepancies in pronunciation. Your standard keyboard these days has the Alternian letter in a large font, and below it the Earth Latin letter in a smaller case. You can buy keyboards that are different to that. Solix has a keyboard that's entirely blank, and every key is either red or blue, alternating in a pattern with an opposing colored light underneath it. You absolutely can touch type, but suddenly faced with no letters, you always mess up and he always laughs at you. Anyway, the letters are only there because you remember pointing out at your sleepovers, where Rose first brought the board, that she'd only be able to communicate with ghosts who used that alphabet. What if there were troll ghosts? Which, of course, prompted June to ask, what if there were ghosts who only knew a different writing system, like Chinese, Japanese, or Arabic? Dave had taken that opportunity to point out that this was all shit and you could all be doing something else. Actually, you wonder if you could find a way to make a Ouija board that'd work with those languages.
It'd be a breathtaking waste of time, but, might as well.
You're going to help, right? You're going to help as well, right?
Rose asks, looking at Hal.
I will participate,
Hal says carefully. You'd put money on him immediately making the board spell dicks or something like it. Rose sits on the floor with the board and sets everything out right. She then pats the ground for you and Hal to join her, which you do. Maybe it's because this was a sleepover game, but it just feels right that you do this on the floor. Rose starts out with a call to whichever spirits so desire to speak from beyond the veil to the three of you. She's had you all place your hands on the plastic pointer thing, and as she goes on, you open one eye to catch Hal's devious expression. He sees you watching, winks at you, and then goes back to pretending to be solemnly into this with his eyes shut. When Rose opens her eyes and Hal follows, you are not in the least surprised when the plastic thing you're all touching moves, nor are you shocked at what it spells. D-I-C-K-S. You keep one hand on the plastic letter thing as Rose grabs her brother by the shirt and shakes him around, chastising him about useless, immature boys always playing the same stupid jokes. You're content to watch it until your arm slips from under you, your hand and the plastic thing skittering across the board. T. It jerks ever so slightly to H, and you yank your hand back. I didn't do that. It moved, you say, genuinely a little freaked out.
T-H? It's got to be the start of something. We should continue, Rose says.
Or our dick ghost has a lisp. Dicks?
Hal snickers. Why wouldn't you still spell the S? And why would you write with a lisp anyway? Solix still has a little bit of a lisp sometimes. He doesn't put it as part of his typing quirk, you point out. Yes, the only unrealistic part of our Hasbro toy seance. My bad, let's continue, Hal says with a roll of his eyes, but he touches the plastic marker, as do you and Rose. Without any obvious direction from any of you, it moves. E-L-I-G-H.
H-T. A light? You repeat.
The light, if we count the letters you had,
Rose says.
Wait, hold on. I'm vandalizing your already vandalized board. I'm not doing this without proper characters.
Hal says with a grunt as he gets to his feet, grabs a pen off of Rose's side table, and comes back. Hal quickly draws in 4 things. Exclamation point, period, question mark, and space. You'd make fun of him for including punctuation in this dumb kid's toy, but it's not a half-bad idea, and it's weird that basic punctuation and a space feature wasn't already there. Though, you suppose you could have done spaces with a pause, but if you were dead and had to spell out a message character by character, you'd feel annoyed with waiting in between words, too.
Let's go,
Hal says, and touches the plastic marker again. Without prompting from any of you, it moves again.
The light!
Wait,
do you mean the lights that have been glowing on the ship? You ask. See the light. Join us.
Okay, that's getting creepy. Rose, knock it off,
Hal says uneasily.
I'm not doing anything, really. Maybe we could ask questions. You say us. Who are you?
Rose asks the room at large. Dead.
I guess that was obvious,
you mumble.
Come to us. Open the doors. Step outside.
I think, you start to say, and falter as the light above you and every light in Rose and Kanaya's hive starts to get brighter and brighter.
It's happening again,
you whisper. Join Under your fingers, the plastic marker freezes and then lowers slightly, so the red Alternian letters are visible in the middle. Go away. Leave them alone.
You can come too, dead man. Come outside.
The plastic pointer skitters from underneath all of your fingers and floats by itself into the air as you, Rose, and Hal stare frozen in terror. With a decisive strike, it slams point down into the bit on the board marked No. It stabs into the thin cardboard of the board, and to your horror, blood wells up around its point. It floods over the board bright red, too bright to be human, but just bright enough to be your own.
Nope,
Hal yells. He grabs his sister by the arm with one hand, and you with the other, shoulders the button for the door open, and hauls you all outside. As soon as you're outside, Hal slams his hand on the door close button, and it shuts just as the rapidly growing pool of blood is reaching the door. The 3 of you back up against the other wall of the hallway, your eyes fixed on the door.
We all saw that, right?
Rose asks in a whisper.
What, the fucking nightmare siren call to go outside of the spaceship and another ghost arguing with them, including a whole load of blood? Yeah, I saw that!
You say, somewhat hysterically.
And you two are just gonna stay there. You wouldn't survive 5 minutes in a horror movie.
Hal snaps at you both.
Do you think it's still happening in there without us?
Rose asks warily.
We're not opening the door to see. It'll be like the goddamn Shining. What the fuck is... No, you're not going back in there. I'm not going back in there. We're not going back until we have backup of, like, a priest or dad or someone.
Hal insists.
We're not religious, so I hardly see how any religious figure would help. Secondly, this isn't a nightmare, and running to Dad isn't going to help.
Rose argues.
Well, what exactly do you suggest doing about what we just saw, I'm not going in there, and we're not splitting up. That's how people die in movies.
Hal snaps at her.
Let's try to think about this logically. The logical explanation is that we moved the board that way, either together or just one of us leading, but it didn't feel like that, and I can't see either of you doing that. Also, it doesn't do anything about the pointer thing levitating and then all of that blood.
You say slowly.
That explained nothing,
Hal says emphatically.
I don't know, I'm trying. I mean, what if it is ghosts? I know Aradia sees ghosts sometimes, and Solix hears people about to die, so there's something after people die, but I didn't know it could be like this,
you say in a panic.
They're hundreds of thousands of miles away. They can't help us now. There's gotta be someone else with those kind of psionics, right?
Hal asks.
I don't know, they're kind of rare, and... Rose!
You yelp as Rose moves past you and presses the button to open her door. The door to hers and Kanaya's hive slides open without a wash of blood at all. The Ouija board is sitting innocently on the floor like nothing ever happened.
Nope. No way. I'm leaving. I'm not going in there. Hal insists. I think I'm also going to leave.
You agree.
Rose, you're coming with me. I'm not letting you go in there alone. You're not going to be the first one to die in a horror movie.
Hal says firmly, pulling Rose back.
I don't think she would be.
You say with dawning horror.
Thank you, Karkat,
Rose says with a smug look at her brother.
No, I mean, I don't think you'd be the first. What about Vikari? That was saying come outside, see the light, and join us. That's the kind of thing Solix said.
You start.
Solix said Vikari was thinking that kind of stuff right before he died.
Hal finishes for you, his eyes wide with dread.
Oh, so ghosts are trying to kill us, and they've killed before. This is horrifying,
you say.
Ghosts are trying to kill us. They've killed before, and you told me that the report about Vikari's death wasn't right, which means there's a cover-up about it, which is even more confirmation that this is real, and we just don't know the truth,
Rose says as she turns to face you both.
Look, far be it from me to be the voice of reason here, but if this is going to turn into some Scooby-Doo mystery hoofy shit, then we need to go do actual research and act sensibly, which includes you not going back in there alone. You need to call Kanaya and... Look, why don't you two stay with me tonight? We can tell people that you're just making me feel better or something, sleep in Dave's room or something, but we talk to each other and communicate things before we do anything. Avoid the dumb horror tropes, right?
Hal says.
That seems sensible. We should walk Karkat to his hive then. If we're avoiding dangerous cliches, then we shouldn't let him go home alone,
Rose points out. On a practical level, you've no idea what having Hal or Rose with you would even do if something creepy happened, but at least it'd be confirmation that you didn't imagine it.
Yeah, that seems smart.
You nod.
Alright, so there seemed to be two voices there, or one that was us and one that felt different,
Hal says as you start walking together.
It shifted to selecting the Alternian letters.
You agree, as Rose sends Kanaya a message.
Linguistically, the ghosts were still writing in Alternian anyway, regardless of the alphabet they were using,
Rose points out, which cuts short your theory about a human ghost versus a troll one.
But potentially a troll old enough that they don't recognize the standard alphabet on a Ouija board. You said you were dreaming accurate things about your ancestor? He died before our species met, right?
Hal asks with a look at you.
Yeah, he was asking me in one dream about Dave and Rose. It was like he knew about humans sort of, but not really.
You agree.
He was asking about me and Dave?
Rose asks, looking up from her phone.
He mentioned something about our last conversation at your office, and I think I mentioned Dave,
you say, and carefully don't elaborate on exactly why.
So we're just assuming that this other ghost is Karkat's dead ancestor, and that these dreams aren't just dreams. We can't just assume that. We need proof of some kind,
Hal says.
We could set up a test. We could leave a sheet of paper out on the table in your hive and ask him to look at it. No, wait. A double-blind test would be better. Write a program to randomize a number, have it do it on a delay. We put it in Solix's room, close the door, run the program, and then no one has seen it. That way, Karkat can't just subconsciously read a number from us because we know.
Rose says.
I'm not sure it works like that. I've been aware that I'm dreaming, but the places we've been in aren't real. They're imagined or memories of places.
You tell them both.
You could always ask. If that was him, it means that he can be out and about in the real world, not just your dreams,
Hal points out.
Okay, I guess. I have no idea how my day took this turn, and I feel a little awful for dragging you two into it. I really just thought this was going to be a dumb game and I could come see Rose. I didn't think I'd be doing any of this,
you say in shock.
The guy who denies that the spooky shit that's happening is happening for spooky reasons is also one of the first to die,
Hal argues.
Well, now I'm wondering what archetypes we all fit into.
Rose wonders aloud. You mostly tune out that particular conversation as the Strider siblings walk you home. There's no way any of that can be real, right? And yet, all three of you saw it, and you're pretty sure neither Rose nor Hal are prone to making up things like that, or pranks this elaborate and mean-spirited. And to be clear, to fake what you saw and let you believe it this long would be nothing short of cruel at this point, and that doesn't describe either of them.
You wish that Aradia was here. Solix, too. Aradia has far more experience with ghosts than you do, and she could tell you what's going on, explain things, or talk to the ghosts herself, but you can't because she's on a planet that you're nowhere near now.
Can you not look up if anyone else has Aradia's kind of psionics and see if they can help us? Hal asks, bringing you back to the present.
That's private information. What kind of psionics a person has and how strong they are is carefully guarded information and has been ever since the unification of our two species. As a healthcare provider, I can't share that information, and quite honestly, unless it's been noted for a particular health reason or they've chosen to get tested, then we don't have that information at all, and when we do have it, we can't disclose it.
Rose explains.
It's common knowledge that Solix has psionics. Basically all Goldbloods do, but it probably doesn't even say that on his HR file that he has either telekinesis or his vision twofold.
You add. Vision twofold, Hal repeats skeptically.
Surprisingly, not a name he came up with, but I'm sure he appreciates it.
You sigh. Anyway, what do you mean it probably doesn't say? You're telling me you've never looked him up? Hal asks.
Do you not have a professional code of ethics?
Rose groans. I probably scroll to the bottom and hit agree without reading it if we do, Hal says with a shrug.
No, I've never looked him up. Not only would it get me in trouble to do that for no good reason, but I've known him for forever. There's hardly a single thing about Solix that I don't know. Literally nothing in his HR file will be new to me. Probably nothing in his medical file either, you say with a snort. I kind of wish there was a file of information everywhere about everyone and everything that I could get into. That'd be great, Hal says. I see we're flirting with our god complex again,
Rose says lightly. Before Hal can get into hotly denying his desire for omnipotence, you stop outside of your own front door.
Okay, we walked me home. I did not get attacked by ghosts or anything else, so
you start to say.
You're interrupted by your door suddenly opening, and you, Rose, and Hal all yell in alarm. You're going to say that it's hard to tell who made what sound, but for the sake of your ego, you're going to say that the high-pitched scream was definitely Rose. This isn't helped by the fact that Gamzee, who of course had been the one to open the door, startles as well, and also yelps in alarm. There's a lot of startled screaming going on, is what you're saying.
Oh God, my heart, Rose says, holding her chest. What's going on? Gamzee asks you, crushing the bag of laundry that he'd been holding to his chest.
Fuck, nothing. Oh, wow. Sorry, you just opened the door at the worst time. Scared the life out of me.
You wheeze. I live here, though? Gamzee points out, and in fairness, that's not a bad excuse for him to be there, but still.
Yeah, well, that doesn't mean you were going to be here,
you say, and it comes out a little more accusatory than you'd meant it to, but you're also not wrong, so... What's that mean? Gamzee asks.
Oh, come on. You've barely been around lately, and you've not answered a single message I sent you,
you say a little sharply. Sorry, I just remembered me and Rose have to go. She said she'd help me look for my excuse to not be here. Over there, Hal says hurriedly, and pulls Rose away, who doesn't seem to be resisting the attempt at retreating one bit. You look away from the retreating Striders and back to Gamzee.
Well?
You prompt him. I didn't see any messages. I wasn't looking at my palm husk. I was busy, Gamzee says, and tosses the laundry bag down the way across the hall and nails it right into the chute on the first try. Ordinarily, you'd congratulate him for that, because it's sort of a running game with you two, and normally one of you has to go and make the journey and end up putting it in properly, because it's a hard shot to make. This isn't really the moment, though. Gamzee walks into the hive, and you follow him.
So the whole time you were out, you start.
I was working.
Gamzee cuts over you to say. Okay, not to be an asshole, but you didn't go on the mission. I know there was a lot of chaos about what happened to them and everything, but that's done now, so what exactly do they have you doing that's so important that I've barely seen you and you're not checking any messages? You ask him.
I can't tell you,
Gamzee says, finally turning to look at you. Your jaw clicks shut, and you look away from him. Obviously, confidentiality is a thing in both of your lines of work. You won't tell him personal details of all the people who see you if it's actually sensitive, but if you're telling him about something that frustrated you, you'll anonymize it enough that you can talk about it and get to what's really bothering you. Sure, there's stuff Gamzee must know about that you're not allowed to, but it shouldn't get in the way of the two of you. He could say that there was actually something else going on with the mission and they needed him there, or some other industry needed his help as someone who can move things around or guard things, and he can't tell you details, but they made him keep his palm husk locked away so he didn't see. You don't need classified details, you need a reason. Gamzee sighs and drags one of his large hands through his hair.
I'm sorry. Didn't mean to up and ignore you. Wasn't my intention. You three surprising me like that just spooked me is all,
Gamzee says, but it's kinda too late. You're not holding anything against him in a petty kind of way. It's a pale thing, in the same way that someone can say or do something in a flush or pitch relationship that puts you in a place where the last thing you want to do with them is anything flirtatious. There's a counterpart for pale relationships. He just slammed an emotional door in your face, intentional or otherwise, and you don't want to comfort him or share your thoughts with him right now. You're not in the mood or whatever. It's fine. I'm not mad. That was kind of weird. I'm just gonna shower and go to bed, you mutter and walk off. You shut yourself in your ablution block and have a shower. Even as you're washing your face, you can't help but shudder at the memory of blood that was your own color welling up from the board. It was real. You saw it. You saw it, and so did Rose and Hal. You can't just dismiss this. You dry off and step into your respite block and find Gamzee sat up in your bed. He looks concerned. I'm sorry. I don't want to fight or argue. I just want to go to sleep. You sigh and get changed.
What were you doing today? We can just talk,
Gamzee offers, being clear about just communicating rather than it being an explicitly pale thing. You open your mouth as you look up at him, half-dressed as you are, and you could swear the artificial tang of grape soda settles on your palate. You're not sure what's more bitter, that remembered taste, or the fact that you spat out in your dream that you hadn't been happy in years. How awful of a thing is that to say when you're with someone who's willing to pity you like Gamzee is? Worked from home in the afternoon. The lights in my office blew. You sigh.
Oh shit,
Gamzee says quietly. Yeah, maintenance did fuck all. I had dinner with Dis, and there was more light trouble there. Then you pause for a moment and decide not to tell Gamzee what you saw. Then it was just Strider stuff.
Didn't think you much for hanging with Hal,
Gamzee says. He's in his hive all alone. After all of that, I think he could use some company, don't you? You point out.
You're good,
Gamzee says gently. Gamzee's never differentiated much between doing good and being good. It's a difference you feel keenly, and sometimes you wish you saw things as simply as Gamzee seems to be able to. You wish you were the person he seems to think you are. You slide into bed, weighed into the mattress by both guilt and the heavy mass of all the things you didn't tell your Moirail. Gamzee flicks the light off, and he's out almost as quickly as the light bulb was. Whatever he's doing, it's tiring him out. You're not the least bit surprised that when you open your eyes, you see Signless. You're in the hallway outside of Rose and Kanaya's room, although the hallway itself is empty. That felt like a little bit much. I'm sorry about that. Signless apologizes. The blood. You were one of the voices then, weren't you? You ask him, looking at the shut door. When you look back at Signless, he nods. What was the other thing? The whole come join us shit? You ask. I don't know, but it felt It felt like something really bad, Signless says with a shudder. Right. You need to go to Hal's hive and get into Solix's room. You need to see if this is some elaborate dream or something else. Come with me, you tell him as you walk on, focusing as hard as you can on the route from Rose's place to Hal's place. Where are we going? Signless asks. Shouldn't you know? You ask him as you keep going. No? I don't know everything you do. After the blood thing, I stopped existing, I think. Everything's really fragmented for me. It's only clear when we are talking. You help somehow, and I wanted to help you now that I have a small amount of time that I'm lucid, Signless says as he floats along with you. What are things normally like? You ask him curiously, and make a turn down a different corridor. After... Signless falters. You come to a stop and look at him. He's staring down at his hands, and around his wrists you can see the flickering echo of his shackles, the memory of blood running down his body. Wait, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bring that up. You apologize gently, reaching your hand out and touching his shoulder carefully. I was so angry. All I wanted was equality. I wasn't asking to make everyone royalty. I just wanted everyone to have enough to live, to be safe, to be happy. How many great things have we lost because some brilliant mind got shoved into a helm or killed for sport? All I wanted was enough for everyone to be at least okay. We had so much, and it wouldn't have been a drop in the ocean for the Empress's wealth and power, but and they killed me for it, and I was so fucking angry. Signless snarls that last part out, and his chains snap into reality, clanking to the ground with a heavy thud. The hallway around you warps, the walls get hazy, and you can hear people yelling for Signless's death. They killed me, and I was still here, still burning with it, and that kept me around for a long time. I followed Psionic until I couldn't stand to see him suffer anymore. I found Disciple and saw her pass on my words, and... Signless slumps slightly and the corridor returns to normal. There's only so long you can be angry for, especially when things change and people go on without you, like you never lived at all or died. I got weaker and weaker. I missed things. I saw Disciple move on, and then I saw you and Cancrete too. Whenever I was around long enough that I could think, I was there, but it's less and less. But now, suddenly, I can be here more. I can do things again, Signless says. Whatever's doing all this gave you more power again, woke you up more, you conclude. Yeah. I tried seeing Cancrete, but he can't see me. But you can. I can actually reach you, and I can hold a thought when I'm around you. And you seem so unhappy in yourself, and I know things are better for you than I could ever have lived through, but if I can only be here for a while, I wanted to help you, Signless whispers. He raises his hands, still shackled, and gently takes your face in his hands. As he does so, the iron bands that were molded to his wrists as he was executed fade away, and it's just you and him in this empty corridor. I'm really grateful for everything you did. You've always been a hero to me, you admit quietly. I didn't do enough, Signless says unhappily. You did everything you could and literally died trying to do more, you point out. I know, but I had so much more I still needed to do. If I hadn't got caught, I could have... Signless starts. Fucking hell, this is where I get it from. You're as bad as me, you laugh in disbelief. No, you're too hard on yourself. I should have done better. It's different, Signless insists. Is this what it's like talking to me? This is what it's like talking to me. I need to apologize to everyone I know. Look, just follow me. I need to get to Hal's to check something, you tell him, and keep walking. As you walk the route to the Strider hive, you and Signless bicker back and forth about who is or is not being too hard on themselves and holding themselves to too high of a standard. It is wildly unproductive for everyone involved. You pass a few people, but no one seems to be able to see you at all, which is unsettling.
Thankfully, though, you managed to get to the Strider Hive, having worked out that you can just walk through shut doors. Silas is somewhat interested when the pair of you walk through the door and into the Strider Hive. It's dark inside, but you know which room is Solix's from the last time you were here, so you carefully walk over there and through the door. You hadn't expected Solix to be here, though. He sat at his desk, slouched forward with his elbows on the edge as he stares intently at the screen. The only thing he's wearing is loose patterned pajama bottoms. You don't... How can he be here? Are you just regular dreaming this, or something else? Movement gets your attention as something on the floor shifts, making you back up to the door. A white canine face turns to look at you, blinking up at you with dark eyes. What the hell? Why is Beck here? Beck gets up and walks over to Solix, nudging his arm with his nose. Solix grunts sleepily, still staring at the screen. Confused as fuck, you step further into the room, and your eyes widen to see that Solix isn't alone. Dave is in his bed, the covers pulled halfway up his bare back, and his face squished into the pillow. What the fuck? Beck bumps Solix's arm again, and he sighs, finally sitting up properly and swiveling around to face Beck. What? What do you want? Solix asks in a whisper. Beck doesn't seem to know how to communicate what's wrong. To be fair, you don't blame him on that. I don't speak, Bark Beast. What do you want? Food? You want out? What? Solix whispers. He leans down to look at Beck closer, and Beck takes the chance to lick his entire face. Solix jerks back, his face scrunched up in disgust. Blindly, he throws an arm out, and a t-shirt that was on the floor flies over into his hands. Solix pulls his glasses off and scrubs his face clean of dog spit before blinking, and you gasp to see that instead of his usual colors, his eyes are different. One white and one black. Solix looks up at you in surprise and then narrows his eyes suspiciously. He cleans his glasses off with the shirt and puts them on, his eyes going back to red and blue. He lowers them, and they're black and white once more. Oh, this is now, Solix whispers and takes the glasses off again. What the fuck is happening? You ask him. Solix raises a finger to his lips and looks over at the sleeping Dave in his bed and then turns back to the husktop. He opens a message to you. I know that I don't have all that much time to tell you what you need to know, and I know I can't have told you much because of stuff I had to explain after. I know you're here for that test that Hal gave you. He said it was a number, but he actually wrote down a word and a shape to see if you were really guessing or not. Indecipherable Strider shit, I guess. The answer you need is malcontent, and then the shape is a decagon. Malcontent and a decagon. That's like a 10-sided shape, right? How are you here? You ask him carefully, in case Dave can hear you too. Solix frowns, and his hands hover over the keyboard for a good while before he starts to type again. I'm not trying to play you off here or be deliberately shifty about this, but I legitimately don't know how this is happening. I just know that it did and now is. So I'm trying not to say anything wrong or wake up Dave because that didn't happen. But maybe I can't do the wrong thing and cause a paradox because for you it already happened? I don't know. Well, that sure was an answer. How about a question that's a little more tolerable for you to deal with? Why is Dave half naked in your bed? What about Jade? Did they break up? They did, didn't they? You whisper, looking over at him. Solix opens his mouth and glances at the screen before looking over at Dave. I don't think I should tell you that. Also, since you know all I think you're meant to, don't you want to know the end I already know this has? So, if all this has happened before for him, then this is definitely the future. You're in the right place, but the wrong when. So, if he knows things, then you must have told him what happens now. So, what happens now? What are you... you start to say, but there's a quiet, sleepy sound from the bed, and Dave shifts under the covers. Solix looks over in alarm and holds a finger to his lips, reminding you to shut the fuck up. For a moment, your eyes track to his hands, and you realize that there's something glowing on his middle fingers, but he's moved his hand now, and you can't see what. You glance back at Signless, who has been uncharacteristically quiet this whole time. He's backed up to the door, looking at you and Solix interacting like he couldn't possibly look away, but like it hurts to see as well. Watching you and Solix is like remembering him in Psionic. God, that has to be bittersweet. Hey, Solix says, so quiet it's barely audible. You look around to see that he's closer to you than you remember. Shit, now that he's standing up, you realize that he's not just closer than before, but hotter than you remember him being. He's not quite as athletic looking as the actual sailors are, but he's a lot more defined than you ever recall him being, and holy shit, has he got some kind of tattoo on his shoulder as well? What the fuck? This isn't fair. You weren't prepared for this. Solix clearly reads your expression with 222% accuracy and is delighted by it. He smiles. No, it's self-satisfied like a smirk, but there's more to it, a kind of intent that... Look, fuck it. One might describe that as a smirk, but you're gonna pull out the most torrid romance novel language you have, knowing that you're not going to tell any version of him this, and say that this is a fucking smolder of an expression. You'd be more annoyed that he can do that if he wasn't doing it to you, and it wasn't working. Solix leans closer to you. Do you have a body like this? A pump biscuit? It's probably gonna go into some kind of coronary failure at this rate if you do. Solix reaches out for you, and his hand does touch your cheek. It doesn't go through you like all the doors and walls you've walked through. You're pretty sure he's going to kiss you. It's not like you've never seen that look on his face before. Not the intent to do it, but you can tell when he's really thinking about it with you right there, and the moment feels like he could. He'd probably know the look on your face too, but you don't talk about shit like that. He's going to... And then with a jolt, you're awake. You're awake in bed with Gamzee snoring softly next to you. Guilt crashes over you like a tsunami, but it was a dream. It wasn't real, right? Right? You have a way to know. The code. Malcontent and a Decagon, please tell me I'm wrong. Hal, wake the fuck up and answer me. Fuck, let me go check the program. The fact that you went for a word and a shape is unsettling because I didn't have it do a number like I said. It was Malcontent and a Decagon. The only thing I can think to say is that when you've eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. Only I have access to the program. You couldn't have checked it, and Rose couldn't have told you. I think we just proved that your ancestor's haunting you. Fuck. You close the chat and press your palm husk to your mouth so hard you're pretty sure you're gonna leave a mark, but it keeps you from screaming. Somehow, all of this is real. Somehow Signless is actually haunting you. Somehow you went into some point in the future where Solix was, where... Fuck, he had Dave in his bed too. What? Okay, that's a whole different thing you can outsource thinking about to Solix when he gets back, because you're sure he's gonna overthink that. You're being haunted! On the plus side, you have confirmation that Solix and Dave do get back, so that's something at least. You sit in silence and darkness, feeling so conspicuous that you may as well be under a spotlight. Solix nearly kissed you, and the worst part is you wanted him to. Not in the theoretical kind of way that you've always wanted, but in the far worse practical way where you might have let him, or participated more than enough so let him isn't the right descriptor. You want to be with Solix. It's not that you've just been waiting for him and Aradia to break up, because you haven't. It's not that this being a possibility now is the issue, because it's not that. Your feelings for him never went away, and you've been happy for him all these years when he was with Aradia and when you were with Gamzee, because you were both happy, so what did it matter that your feelings never faded? But you look at Gamzee asleep in the dark, messy hair over the pillow, and having done nothing actually wrong, and It hurts. Your mouth is acrid with synthetic fruit taste for an order that you did want, that you do like, but not now. Silas wanted you to be happy, and you yelled in his face that you haven't been in years. It's hard to tell yourself that you're fine and that this is good. Or, worse still, it is fine. Gamzee is sweet, gentler than people think he is, and though he can frustrate you, it's endearing. He's been through so much, and he deserves stability and someone to listen to him, and you're here. You can do that. You do that. You listen to him, and you've helped him grow from when you were teenagers together, and he had so much room for improvement, and he's better now. He is. This is fine. It's not good. You're not happy. It's not what you want. It's just fine. You can't unthink all of this. It was easier when you were blissfully ignorant, or at least tolerably ignorant. But now you'd really like something that is more than just fine. Gamzee probably deserves more than fine from you, too. What the fuck are you going to do?